So be really cautious. And we're also saying don't think that your social media accounts need to be boring. You know, utilize those social media accounts to show off your personality, because if you're somebody going for a job in an industry that requires you to be social, but your social media actually says that you're on a Saturday night, you stay home and hang out with your cat, well, that's not really saying much about who you are and what you're doing. But if it's your social media accounts are showing that you're going out and you're able to, you know, look professional and go out and still have a good time, well, then it says that you're really flexible and you are that social person. So utilize that to the best of your ability, and be just like what Gary Vee says, put that content out there. So if you are interested in a topic, you know, then inform people, let people know, so that when they do look you up, they can say, oh, they told me that they have this interest. I can find out about them. They're saying what's going on. It's, you know, it's backing it up. So if you do go to somewhere and you say, hey, I'm a hustler and I'll work really, really hard, and they can see that you're working all these hours, you're putting in all this extra time, you're going out of your way to investigate things, or you're going to events that are informing you about different things, then, you know, it backs it up. Utilize your social media to really give yourself that advantage of where you're going in your own career.
Okay, so I do have one other question, and it's not this question, and I don't know who to ask it to. It seems like I should ask it to Sacha, but maybe it's Sonya. I don't know. But I went to a freshman orientation this past, like a few months ago, for a freshman that's heading into high school. And, you know, the whole orientation for the parents was cool. And then the police officer on the campus, he came up and, you know, he shared a few words about, he said that, you know, the number one issue that they're dealing with at the school is, you know, internet based, like social media, phones and stuff like that. And he gave two pieces of advice that I thought was cool, but I do humble myself in front of experts. So I wanted to ask you both about it. He said that parents should, before they go to bed at night, you should take their phone or put it in like a neutral place, like in the living room or in the kitchen when they go to bed, and then they get it in the morning. And then he also said that parents should also have the passwords for their phone, like to log into their phone, as well as to all of their social media accounts. How do you both feel about those things?
Absolutely. I think that's correct. What do you think, Sonya?
I think when they're younger, then that is appropriate. I think when you're talking about older teenagers and, you know, sort of 18 and above, we should have been doing a lot more work in terms of communicating in safety and how they feel about their online world and what's clever and what's not, and those kinds of things way before having their passwords. And to me, that feels wrong, because they're a young adult and we need to give them, we need to trust them. Look, I just think that it's better to actually have the conversations and remain open to listening to what they've got to say than actually spying on them and having the passwords when they're older. Certainly when they're younger, absolutely.
And what's the younger and older? Can you get for context?
Well, I think, when you're talking about 17, 18, 19, then they, I think that that's a young adult to me, and they do have a lot of information. We talk to our children about this all the time. We talk to teenagers in schools about this all the time. And they are up on a lot of the information, but, to be sort of still monitoring them and having their passwords and that kind of thing, that kind of freaks me out a little bit. I think that sort of speaks more to their trust and them trusting us. When they're younger, when they're sort of anything up to sort of 16 and 17, then yeah, I'm sure have passwords. Fantastic. Yes, have their passwords, know all about it, know what's going on. And it also depends on what sort of situation they're in as well. Like if they're being bullied, then yeah, we need to limit the use of limit their access to the social media as well, so that they get a break. They have a break away from that relentlessness of being online all the time. If your child is showing signs of being slightly social media addicted, then yes, we need to be taking it away from having some more conversations. Now, that's a little bit hard because I'm slightly social media addicted myself, and it's hard to do that. But yeah, I think when they get a bit older, spying on them is not the way to be. I think it's more about talking.
Okay. All right.
It actually might mean that as a family, if you see that your kids are, social media addicts, or they're not, they're really like pulling away from the family and they're spending so much time in their rooms by themselves and they need to have that phone with them all the time, then maybe one of the best ways to do it, and I know, like when I say this as a parent, it actually freaks me out to think, oh my God, you're going to take my phone away from me too. But having something as a family where we all say, hey, there's no point in me saying, well, I want your phone in the lounge room being charged, whereas mine's next to the bedroom. So we all need to come together, and sometimes as the parent, you might need to sacrifice something that you're saying, hey, I'm noticing I'm quite addicted to my phone and this is what's happening to me too. So let's kind of see if we can work this out as a family. And that might be something that you can have a conversation with an older young person. But again, you're right, Sonya, you wouldn't have that conversation from now. Like you don't just kind of start now and say, hey, all of a sudden I think that you're a social media addict and we're now going to start charging the phone out in the lounge room. I'm 20, Mum. Like, that's not going to happen, when I've had that. But you certainly would do that. Like the rules are don't get on Instagram or, Facebook or any forms of social media at least till you're 13. And I'm constantly talking to parents that are saying, yeah, that's fine. They've got an Instagram account. So Instagram seems to be so much safer than Facebook for some parents. I mean, that's completely untrue and delusional.
Wow.
Yeah, I just had a parent tonight and, they're on social media and they've got an Instagram and they're 9. Like, how can you possibly be equipped at 9 to be able to know how to, not speak to a stranger if they're coming on to you, or not know the difference of what an appropriate photo is or not? You're 9.
9?
Yeah, 9. And they were like saying to me, oh, well, they've got Instagram and that's okay. And I'm like, I've got alarm bells going off.
Wow. Yeah, 9 is definitely, 9 is way too young. I think even depending on their maturity, teenager is where you should probably start, but 9 is definitely a red flag.
Yeah, and then when their kids get in trouble, they'll come and say, why are they doing this? The school needs to be focusing more on this and how they're handling that. Well, actually, why are they even on it in the first place?
Yeah, because like you guys were talking about before, it's not even always what they're putting out. It's more so like what they have access to. Like a 9-year-old, they can search and, explore all different other people's accounts, and you have no idea what they're doing.
It's absolutely. And I recently had a friend of mine, their daughter, on my phone, all of a sudden it appeared and their daughter was following me. And I rang the mum straight away and I said, I'm just letting you know, this is a very good friend of mine, I've got your daughter following me on Instagram. And she said, yeah, that's okay. Because, and made it out like, of course they're going to want to follow you because you're so interesting and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden it made me very conscious about some of the things that I'm putting on social media because I now have 10-year-olds following me. Whereas this is actually a space that I use to communicate with teenagers or adults, and I should be able to freely put out there whatever I want. And if I want to share a Gary Vee clip and, you know, he drops a few F-bombs, I should be able to do that because this is my space to be able to do that. But now I'm quite conscious because I've got a few friends, their kids that are 10 following me on Instagram. Now, I'm doing that as a conscious adult, but I really shouldn't have that responsibility. The responsibility is actually up to the parent, not up to me and what I'm thinking about my content.
Yeah. And I think that's where I wanted to, I know a lot of people, a lot of the parents, this is probably the part of the conversation that they really came here for, or maybe they didn't come here for, but now that we've been talking, this is the part of the conversation that they need the most because they're most confused about is social media, right? Social media as a whole, it's its own world. I mean, there's reality and then there's social media. Sometimes the two worlds, you know, meet together. But my last question for you guys would definitely have to be social media and all the things we need to know about when our children are online. Who wants to go first?
Well, I can, if you like, Sonia. So, well, there's very clear rules about age limits in terms of when they can get on to social media, and I think that's a really good guide. Let's just work towards those. And I know that in our social circles, Sacha and I always say we want to delay it as long as possible. They don't need to get on there and be exposed to that world and all of its tricks, you know, any faster than is necessary, really. So I think go along with the guide in terms of the age limit, but then it just opens up so many conversations. And it's here. Like parents, we need to jump on board. It's not like, oh, that internet thing's not going to take off. You know, it's taken off and it's here. And this is the way that our young people communicate with each other. And within that, there are so many kind of safety conversations that we need to have in terms of things like, you know, privacy settings and location services and not letting everybody know where you are. Snapchat came out with a feature this year that allows the user to see where all of their Snapchat friends are in terms of their physical location. And whether that's in an aeroplane or on a train or in a particular office building, you can see where all the other snappers are. And that completely freaks me out. And to, you know, the young people that we talk to in schools, you know, getting the importance of having their privacy settings in place and their location services turned off is so important. You know, I say to them, hands up in the audience, hands up who of you in here could say that they know all of their friends and followers across all of their social media so well that if they walked into this room right now, you could sit down with them, know who they are, have a chat with them and know something about their life. And out of an audience of a couple of hundred, I'd get probably 4 hands go up that they know everyone that well. I said, well, okay, so you're posting very personal information about yourself on your social media, and the random people that you have following you now have access to that. They know exactly where you are. They know exactly what you're doing. They know who you're with. And, you know, those random people can then pass that information on to other random people. So, you know, you're putting yourself into a really dangerous situation. So you've got all of those practicality stuff, you know, the issues that we need to talk to teenagers about, knowing the rules, knowing the safety stuff, knowing that if you put a picture of yourself out on a Saturday night with, you know, wasted in throwing up or something like that, and you put that up on your social media, that everybody, including your future employers, have access to that. We just have to get that information across straight away. And then I think probably Sacha speaks to some of the other issues around self-esteem and what young people are dealing with when they're not getting the likes and they're not getting the interaction with all the comments from their audience. And so they're feeling a bit like losers. I think Sacha speaks really well about that.
Uh-oh.
There's a handful of like checklists that we need to kind of say before we either get our young person on social media, or if they're on social media and you just want to make sure that they're safe. And some of those things are, you know, what to do if a random person contacts them. You know, think about it as an adult point of view. Like, you know,